Welcome, everyone. Welcome. If I get everyone's attention. This is the special meeting of council for March the 31st, 2026. The meeting is live streamed and recorded and on the internet by visiting the Town of Parry Sound's website at www.parrysound.ca. I'd like to acknowledge at this time that we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850 and the waterways traveled by the Métis of this region. There's no additions to the agenda. We have a mover and seconder for the agenda, Councillor Ashford and Councillor Keith, that the special council agenda for March 31st, 2026 be approved as circulated. All in favor? It's carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none. I was asked before the meeting if someone could make a deputation, and I don't want to feel like they would be stifled in any particular way. So, Ms. Cunningham, if you want to come up and take a seat, and deputation, if you can keep it to a little over 5 minutes, that would be appreciated. What? Oh, I thought you were prepared.
Specific topic that has brought me here, but I'm unprepared to address it. And I can be incoherent when I'm unprepared.
Do you want to come to the next meeting then and talk about whatever it was you wanted to talk about, or did it have to do with the budget?
It has to do with the budget.
Okay.
And it has to do with the Trestle Bridge, which I am concerned about, the one that's at Wabano Crescent, which is,
Okay.
I think, called the Wabano Road Bridge or something, which is not accurate, but in any case.
We know which one it is, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just puzzling to me that council is considering putting more funds towards that when there has been no written reason or compelling reason given that I have heard that the bridge should be replaced. And council has already voted not to remove that bridge. And so I fail to understand why more money is being put towards it, because the only reason that more money would be needed for it is because engineering would be required for replacement or changing it in some way, replacing it, or I think the other option was to have a higher underpass available. And those both require engineering, but the province has provided sufficient funds for repair, and there has been no adequate reason to do anything other than repair.
Mhm.
So I think that's basically
That's your
what I
question?
have to say. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Kearns, I believe, is online, and maybe Mr. Kearns can answer that question.
Certainly, Your Worship. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think even with the repair option, there will be engineering required. The bridge has been inspected according to our OSIMS or structural inspection manual inspections previously. And there had been repairs identified, repairs that need to happen if the bridge is to remain in its mostly its current state. So staff have been speaking with suppliers of materials, those sorts of things. And the reason that some extra money was put in the budget is to ensure that we can adequately cover the anticipated cost of any option. There has been no option decided on by council. There will be a report coming back to council for its consideration. That we're looking at different options. So it could be repair. If it's repair with a like material, it's very difficult to source from regulatory reasons. So the creosote is not a commonly found material any longer in terms of preserving timbers. So in speaking with suppliers, we know that some of the costs have gone up, and we want to ensure that there's adequate money in the budget and approved to proceed with whichever option is finally chosen by council.
Okay.
As I understand, thank you. As I understand it, the province has supplied $350,000, and that would go towards the repair. And so the extra that has been put towards it would come from tax dollars, which the committee that's concerned about the future of the bridge feels is unnecessary under the circumstances. It was a bridge that was built for a train. It's very sturdy. What it gets now is foot traffic, and at the most a snow machine, you know, something that the snow clearing that's required for a snow groomer, I guess it is called, the groomer.
The groomer.
That's
Yeah.
probably the heaviest traffic that it gets now. Anyway, I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you very much for the chance to speak.
You're most welcome.
Your worship, if I could just add on that
Yep.
topic, and I think
Yep.
Ms. Phillips is in a better position to explain the funding. The funding for it is not specific to the bridge. So the province allocates monies within various funding sources that are available to the municipality, and we do have that leeway to apply it to various projects. So I just want to point out that funding was not specifically applied for this project. But it is a source of funds that do come from the province that can be allocated to infrastructure and capital type projects like this.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. The resolution is, and I'll read it and then we'll get into the nitty gritty, is moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Bileski that the 2026 operating budget be approved and that the budget bylaw be brought forward to a future council meeting. Consider that read. Mr. Harris, you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, we're here this evening for the discussion regarding the 2026 operating budget. I'd just like to say, nothing in life happens in a vacuum or by chance. There's always a lot of thought and a lot of planning that goes on behind the scenes. And the first thing I'd like to just give a shout out to all the staff across the town. This Stephanie and the Director of Finance is the lead, but there's a lot of work done by everybody across the town to get it to where we are this evening. And I think you'll find there's interesting when Stephanie goes through the details, what's really driving this year's tax increase, external factors, and what the town's operating budget tax increase would look like without those external factors. And managing the town's finances doesn't just happen at budget time. This is the culmination of a year's worth of work. For example, we have, and it's not a formal program, but it's built in everybody's approach to their work is continuous improvement. And every year we list and identify continuous improvement things that have taken place in departments, often on the department's own initiative. And that's in the executive summary every year. Just by way of example, last year we put in a work order system to better track work order, and mostly public works, but track assets. And just that was an efficiency. IT department they tracked down old phone lines that were not in service, perhaps old bell lines, copper lines, and they identified $9,000 a year in savings. And that's something that's going on all the time, and all those different things, small, big, different sizes, culminate into, us being able to present a budget to you that's reasonable and well thought out. We also have taken a lot of effort to get grants wherever we can. In 2019, we started tracking what grants is the town receiving? And these are grants that you have to apply for. We get some grants that are automatic and you just expect them in the mail, every year, routinely. But to the extent that grants need to be applied for, we started tracking. And since we started tracking in 2019, we've received 25.5 million in grants. And that was for work that was really pretty essential to health and safety, roads, infrastructure, to support the growth that we're seeing happen, to make sure that the infrastructure is safe for the public to use, et cetera. If we hadn't have got that extent of grants, that would have been on the backs of the property taxpayer or the ratepayer if it's water and sewer, or there would have been a decline and deterioration in the assets. So again, there's just a lot of goes into the budget. I didn't want to get into the details and steal Stephanie's thunder, but there's a context here that there's a lot goes on. The culmination is tonight, but the staff across the town think about continuous improvement all the time and how to do things better, differently. So we appreciate that work. Stephanie, I want to thank her for leading this process. She's the person that's got this together and gives us the information to make decisions as to where we might look at if the revenues can be increased or the expenses seem to be going up more than what we don't understand. And so that process, very iterative, but Stephanie's the key to that, and her staff, and Zach's been significantly more involved this year, which is great to see. But just a thank you to them, and I'll let you, Stephanie, I'll let you just go through some of the details.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council, and the public. Welcome to the 2026 draft budget presentation. Tonight, I'll present the 2026 budget overview and operating budget impacts. I'll present historical tax rate increases and grant awards per year. Some economic impacts such as declining investment earnings and rising prices for oil, gas, energy will be mentioned. I'll go on to present the tax-supported budget funding as well as operating budget by service area. And then we'll work our way through the summary of net levy changes by division, explain variances, and staff will answer any questions of council. Then council will go through the items for consideration, and these items can be brought forward by a member of council or the public, and staff are seeking direction or confirmation for each item through that section. Okay, firstly, the 2026 budget overview. The town requires $515,676 in additional funds for 2026. This is 1.8% for operations net of growth and 1.8% for the dedicated annual infrastructure levy. The operating budget has an increase near inflation and just under last year's increase. So the 2026 budget maintains service levels and focuses on sustainability of municipal infrastructure while preparing the municipality's infrastructure to support continued investment in housing and economic growth. Okay, so two external factors are driving the operating budget impact. $254,000 approximately, an 11% increase in the OPP levy, and the reduced investment returns by $155,700 from Lakeland Holdings. They're reduced by 50%. So those are the main factors impacting the 1.8%. Much of it is made up within town operations to achieve that rate. Historical tax rate increases. So the table shows historical tax rate increases and that the operating rate have been less than inflationary levels for the most part. Back in July, CPI was 1.6%, which typically sets the low end of the guideline, and the high end of the guideline would be 3.2% for the operating budget tax increase per council policy. The proposed operating budget is at 1.8%, and together with the capital levy of 1.8%, it's a total increase of 3.6%. And a lot of work went into review and revision to achieve that rate within the proposed budget. Grant awards per year. This slide shows grants awarded by year notified. It shows that generally grant revenues have significantly increased since 2019, and total grant awards over the past 8 years is over 25 million. Some of the more recent grants highlighted include 489,000 for playground revitalization in 2024, 13.1 million for the pump station 2 upgrade at Champaign to support housing in 2025, and nearly 7.2 million for wastewater plant tertiary filter upgrades replacement in 2026. So those are a few of the grants that have happened over the time frame, most recent years. The town bank accounts are earning 1% less compared to this time last year. Dividends from Lakeland Holding were expected to be reduced by half, but Bank of Canada held its overnight interest rate at recent announcements. So they're taking a wait and see approach to changes in energy prices. So that's what's going on with interest rates right now and investment earnings. Rising oil energy costs impact is uncertain. So there's currently a spike in gas prices and the long-term impact is uncertain. Gas, diesel, oil prices in the budget have been relatively unchanged. There was about a 9% difference from actuals in 2025. Other energy has been increased by 83,000 overall in the budget. So that's generally what's been going on with this. Moving on to the 2026 operating budget pie chart. So this slide shows funding sources for tax supported budget. So 11 million, almost 12 million in property taxation, which is 61% of the funding for the operating budget. The other 39% is supported through provincial grants, user fees, investment earnings, etc. So that gives you an idea that 39% is from a variety of other sources. This chart shows the net budget by service area. 26% of the municipal taxation dollars go towards external boards, levies, and district services, and 20% to transportation and winter control. Fire, parks and rec, and waste management are the next largest service areas with between 5 to 7% each.
Ms. Phillips,
Mhm.
some of them are wondering what page you're on.
Oh. This is in the overview. Page. Sorry, pardon me.
Yeah.
Page 37, and now we're on to 38. And under tab 3. So I'll turn it over to Zach Cousineau, who's going to assist with proceeding through the summary of changes to the net levy and highlighting the variances. If there's any questions about any of the sections, just raise your hand and we'll either defer to staff or help to answer those questions while we move through this part.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and the public and staff. So some of the larger variances this year, from a revenue perspective, come from provincial grants and subsidies. So we've seen an increase of 387,000 in grants received or expected, largely due to the OMPF grant, which has increased about $327,000. And that falls under the CAO's area. And and there's also some just minor grants that amount to about $36,000 from in various other departments that have increased there. From a federal grants and subsidies perspective, the development department or development areas, there's been a decrease of about $72,000 there, and that's just the NOHFC grant funding decreased due to the completion of the waterfront master plan. Other large areas, as Stephanie mentioned, investment earnings, that's showing a decrease of $170,000 in funding, and that's just due to lower interest rates this year, or that expected this year, excuse me. Other revenues, so mostly in the waste management area, they're showing a decline of about $156,000, and that's just due to the loss of the recycling program. In licensing and permits, there's an increase of approximately $92,000. $72,000 of that is in the building department, and it's based on anticipated projects for building permits for anticipated projects. And there's about $22,000 increase in permit revenues in the development area, and that's largely due to the town taking over the town docks. The contributions from reserves and reserve funds, it's a net change or net increase of approximately $38,000 through various departments. So there's about $15,000 used to offset election costs. The CAO's area is seeing a $75,000 increase in contributions from reserves to offset an organizational review and salary surveys. Economic development seeing $65,000 in reserves to support the strategy and website development. Bylaws seeing a $75,000 increase for parking study. The planning department is seeing a $110,000 increase there for the zoning bylaw review. Stormwater, there's a decrease of $175,000 there because a study that we had planned on is now being performed internally. And then in finance, we've seen a $115,000 decrease due to the completion of our asset management plan, and we've moved some of our modernization reserves over to the capital for our ERP implementation. In terms of expenses, salaries and benefits, there was a non-union salary increase of 1.8%, and the union salary increase was 3.25%. Some new positions to note, while seeing a decrease of $52,000.
Councillor Keith has a question.
Oh.
And I have done my homework, but given the screen that we're on, I'm not seeing all that we're speaking about. So talking about here, all open position, they were speaking about the page that I'm looking at.
So Mr. Kuzno's given kind of a high level of revenue and expenses, like overall for the entire organization. But then I think after that, we would just slowly flip through the sections in case there are any additional questions related to like specific sections like mayor and council, information technology, economic development. So this is sort of an overview, and then on to each one, we'll flip through them and see if there's any additional questions, I think, at the follow-up, if that will work for everyone. Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, so bylaws, there's a $52,000 less for salary and benefits just due to resources that weren't required due to the loss of the automated speed enforcement program. The development area is seeing a $54,000 increase with plans of having a harbor master and student positions to help with the operations of the town dock and cruise ship visitors. Transportation seeing $104,000 for a capital project manager as a contract position for this year. The finance department, we've swapped our payroll supervisor that we asked for last year for an accounting supervisor. And we've changed our asset management coordinator to a capital asset manager position, which has increased our budget by approximately $23,000. And that's just to help support the department growth strategy that we are trying to implement. Purchased and contracted services, we're seeing a net increase of approximately $73,000. The CAO's area is seeing a $57,000 increase for a records management audit. Transportation is seeing a decrease for custodial costs, parking lot maintenance contracts, and general construction, and that amounts to about $45,000 or $50,000. Waste management is seeing $108,000 increased for the cost of collection at the various facilities and sites. There's been a decrease in consulting of approximately $173,000 for the loss of the recycling program. Parks and Recreation is seeing a $50,000 increase for engineering inspection for the Tower Hill Park. And finance is seeing a decrease of approximately $59,000 for the completion of the asset management plan with a slight increase in audit fees. Debt repayment is decreasing by approximately $115,000. Large portion of that is a $100,000 decrease for the construction financing to fund the pool construction. And there's some declining interest on long-term debt for both the transportation and municipal building areas. And then contributions to reserves and reserve funds, that's decreased by approximately $115,000. There's a decrease of approximately $75,000 in the CAO's area for the West Prairie Sound Recreation and Cultural Center due to it being open or opening sometime later this year. And the development area is seeing a decrease of approximately $37,000 due to the expiration of the lease at the Salt Tucks. So now we can.
Okay. Okay, so that was kind of high level all over throughout the budget, the major kind of variances. So if we just flip through each, is there any questions about mayor and council? It's just a very small variance there. And this year there's an election, so that's incorporated into the budget. And on to general government. So office of the CAO, if there's any questions there, can answer those, but I think we've gone through most of the variances within that section. Sure, right now we're on page 86, which is under tab 7. '85, '86. Economic development. There's a small reduction there.
Councillor Keith has a question.
Okay.
Thank you, and I appreciate that we're trying to be efficient there, but my fingers are flipping to the pages may not be as fast as yourself. When I look at, and thank you, economic development, and I look at expenses, rent and financial expenses, there's a 12,000 there for the 2026 budget. And I'm wondering, is that something that we're considering a grant for in the future? Because RTO is no longer in the picture. Is that why we're having $12,000 there, or what's the scoop?
So I believe Mr. Tom's online. I could defer that to him if he has ideas for the shuttle.
Yes, I can answer that, Ms. Phillips, and thank you for having me this evening. So, Councillor Keith, the cruise ship shuttle was jointly funded by the town and RTO 12. Their partnership programs are typically funded on a 50% basis, but they are intended to be kind of time limited. So there was funding for a few years for that program through RTO 12. But because we're using RTO 12 as a partner for other priorities in economic development this year, they made it known that that this program, at least the funding from RTO 12, would be coming to an end. So RTO 12 is providing funding for our economic development and tourism strategy. There's also other projects that we're working on at the moment for 2026 that might include some RTO 12 funding as well.
Oh,
So for clarification, what I heard is that RTO is still supporting for tourism, but as for this expense, financial expense, we're going to have to fund the 12,000 ourselves. It's not going to be a 50-50. That's what I heard.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So we are receiving funds from RTO 12 for other projects, but this project will be for now taken over by the town. I will say that the cruise ship shuttle program is a very popular program with the cruises themselves. It's a great opportunity to expose the cruise ship passengers to the various points of interest in town. And it's something now that we have a lot of flexibility to pivot year to year, even in year, if we want to highlight different areas of town or provide different opportunities for the cruise ship guests. So it is a very popular program, and we just have taken over 100% of the funding for it.
Councillor Borneman?
With respect to the investment earnings and the reduction of the Lakeland monies, is there a rationale behind that we've been made aware of? Is this a blip, a 1-year thing, or is this something that we should be expecting on a go forward basis?
Through the through the mayor to Councillor Borneman. There was a few things that Lakeland Power has experienced financially. One was the ice storm, which was probably just over a year ago. That had some significant damages. There was a transformer station that needed significant repairs, and the water levels for the last few years have been quite low. The water levels, Lakeland Hydro not only has distribution lines, but they have hydro generation, and the levels in the water determine the flows through the generators, and they're generating less revenue. So those two were the main factors, and they felt that they couldn't pay out the full dividend, but they commit to 50%. The organization does require a certain amount of capital for other ongoing maintenance. We've had the shareholders, and Parry Sound is one of those shareholders, met with them to explain our concerns, our perspective on them changing dividend levels directly affects tax rates in our respective municipalities. So they're very aware of that. They wouldn't commit whether the dividend levels would get back to the typical dividend, the normal, what we've been used to, but we're working with them to keep on top of that.
Well, the snowbanks say it should go up significantly.
Okay, any more questions about economic development portion or? No?
No.
Okay, we can move on to information technology. Page 8990, tab 7. So there is a small decrease overall in that budget area.
Councillor Keith?
Thank you. I have a question, or just to clarify for maybe the future, Ms. Phillips, for the internal recoveries, I see the budget of 243,397, and it explains here that's for the revised allocation for the departments based on actual costs and number of devices updated. But is it possible then in 2027 that one will be re-examining that, because with the new council and possibly a need for updating our equipment again, that that will be re-examined?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So typically these internal recoveries cover operating related costs, so some labor, and they're allocated out based on the number of devices. But perhaps in 2027, we'll be looking at capital for some device changeover for council, and then that doesn't really impact this directly, but the number of devices across the organization impacts how it's allocated out overall. Okay. On to Development and Protection Services, tab 8. No change to emergency service, which is typically training materials related to that. On to fire service. Small increase, 16,650 overall. Any questions related to that? Those are really small items throughout. Nothing, no large impact. Okay, on to bylaw enforcement. Small increase, 39,798 overall. So automated speed enforcement's been removed from this portion of the budget, but it broke even, so it didn't have an impact overall, but it does impact the bullet points here. And there's a parking study included in this section of the budget as well, which is budgeted at 75,000. So that's a bullet point there to note.
Councillor McCann has a question.
Yeah, thank you. With regards to the cameras being removed, has the province provided any revenue? It's been promising to subsidize municipalities with other traffic calming facilities. Have we indeed received anything yet, or are we expecting to in the near future, if anything?
So we did receive interim funding for capital, like close to 75,000 or around there. And then there is additional funding, like approximately 300,000 from memory, that we'll have to apply and say what we're going to do with related to road safety initiatives. So at this time, that hasn't been determined what we will spend the money on related to that. And that would come forward to council, and a grant report would be submitted to that they would agree to what we're kind of spending on that money on.
Right. Well, when Councillor Keith and I met with the detachment commander and the staff sergeant, we talked about a number of different ideas or whatever with traffic calming, and we kind of left it with the OPP to check to see what measures were effective, or we could implement that would be acceptable within the MTO and the OPP or whatever for traffic calming measures. And I think we can probably share that email with staff or whatever to make sure that they have an update as to what the OPP discovered, and that we can move forward with traffic calming measures that way. Do you have anything to add to that, Councillor Keith, or no?
No, we just received that information
just-
today, so you're getting it hot off the press.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, on to building, which is page 98. Building fees are increased by 71,000 approximately, just increase based on anticipated projects. And in 2026, the budget's been balanced, so there's no tax impact. So that's what they're targeting in that department for the year. Contracted service costs are reduced just due to completion or near completion of West Parry Sun Recreation Center project. Additional question?
Oh, Counselor Ashford?
I just wanted to check and see how we were able to cover off the pool, because I think part of the reason we did it at the time was it was a technical, there's technical skills required that isn't common for, you know, your average municipality. I know we've also increased our staff and improved our workflow and a lot of other things like that. So is it that the pool's kind of getting near the end? Is it the technical staff's not needed anymore? Or like, are we now a stronger, better in-house system that we can kind of handle more?
Thanks through your worship. Yeah, we have reassessed everything as far as the status of the project since the beginning. Obviously, like you were saying, at the start of the project, we were definitely utilizing the contracted services due to the uniqueness of the project. And throughout, we were looking at resources as far as human resources to be able to cover off the inspection duties and such. With the recent assessment and with the project the way it currently sits today, being near completion, and the other projects kind of being in the phases that they are, we felt that we could basically kind of assume the responsibilities solely and not necessarily be utilizing the contracted services. Any other any other projects that we looked at for this year upcoming, we felt that we weren't going to require their services either. So that's why we left a little bit in the budget in that section, but we're able to reduce it beyond that.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to planning, which is page 100. Just the small changes in legal costs and other consultants. So 10,000 down in legal, 2,500 up in other consultants. The change in contracted services is really just the official plan project is ending and the zoning bylaw review is starting. So it's the difference between those two projects from one year to the next.
Counselor Keith?
Thank you. Just for clarification, I know it's a smaller amount, but it seems to me there's a sign here and it has to do with other consultants of 2,500. It says increase in more complex work trending. So are you anticipating, or what are you anticipating for the future? Because if we see 2,500 this year, I'm kind of thinking the number's going to go up next year. Can you explain, or can somebody explain what is happening there, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, staff are continually assessing historical trends and how those compare to what we budgeted. And in this particular area, we were seeing that we were spending a little bit more money on consulting services. So that would be things like MHBC for specialized projects, specialized planning issues that it's more appropriate to have a consultant take a look at them due to their complexities. And then Jeremy and his staff can look after the day-to-day operations on and do a better job of managing that. So a combination of some of those technical issues increasing, but also analyzing, you know, what are we spending each year in actuals as compared to what we were budgeting. We felt it was important to increase this to actually match what we were spending in those areas.
Okay.
Okay, moving on forward to development. This is page 102. This includes Big Sun Marina, Town Dock, waterfront areas. Okay, so
Question from Councillor Keith.
To do again with development, under energy costs, and I think this is great, we're $15,000 less. And it says it's been budgeted because BSM contractor will be covering a portion of the utility costs. Why is this happening? Like, it's great, but why is this happening? Can this be explained, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. When we, as council's aware, we have a new operator at Big Sound Marina this year. The previous contract had the energy costs being a responsibility of the town. When we worked out the new contract, we had that go on to the contractor. We felt that it would be an incentive for them to reduce energy utilization across the spectrum of those things. And so that is built into the contract now, that the operator will be paying for those costs, not the town.
Councillor Ashford.
Just with the, it's a little bit sad to see the revenue decrease on rent for the salt docks. We might save in road repairs and things as time goes, but is there any prospects out there for anyone who's interested in renting the salt docks? Or I guess the building's gone now. The scales might still be there. Like, is there anyone else? At one point, I know there were questions about subletting. Is there anyone else that's been expressing interest in using it?
So for to be conservative, the revenues are just not factored into the budget, but not everything's been concluded or complete related to that. So there's still work to be done related to the smelter wharf, but just to be conservative, that's not been factored into this year's budget. Okay. Okay, so moving on to transportation operations, that's on page 107 or tab 9. So just small variances throughout, no major changes, just salary and benefits like previously mentioned. Small tools and equipment, a bit less there. Miscellaneous materials, a little more required in that area. Vehicle lease costs, that's just been updated to be what's expected for the year. Debt repayment, so as we get closer to paying off long-term debt, there's less interest required on those routine expenditures. And that's pretty much, is there any questions related to that section? Hey, on to winter control. Contracted service costs have gone up a bit, 5,000. Miscellaneous materials is increased by 40,000, just based on the trend of what we're seeing, a little bit more required in that area. So that's been moved up slightly. Question? On to stormwater, we're on page 111 now. So stormwater study removed from budget, that was about 175,000 and funded from reserve previously, but identification work is being performed internally this year. So we feel like we could defer that or remove it at this time. On to waste management, page 112. Other revenues, lost revenues related to the loss of the recycling program, 156,000 approximately. Contracted services, so 135,000 increase for curbside pickup, and then there's a corresponding 27,000 reduction related to not requiring to pay for processing for recycling. Consulting is down 173,400 related to recycling curbside pickup, which is just in this other category. So mainly the changes are due to the change in that program.
Councillor Ashford has a question.
With the recycling program, if I looked at the numbers and I will not really being great with this. It does seem like at first glance, I was like, oh my God, this is costing us money because we're not getting, but then as we kind of work through, it does seem like on balance, we are saving after this program, or is it costing us?
So there's some increase related to curbside pickup, you know, and not having the recycling. But overall, if you net everything, the curbside pickup went up 135,000, but overall, we're only up about 76,000. So I feel like the recycling changes generally are offsetting each other, with the exception of some of the revenues that we might have got just one time last year related to the program as a transitional situation. But Mr. Kearns, I don't know if he has anything additional he wants to add about that.
So that money's not just literally selling the metal and paper. That's from another source.
In 2025, there was compactor rentals and there was some reimbursement for recycling related costs. So Mr. Kearns, do you have anything additional to add to that in particular?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Ms. Phillips. So I think 2025 was a unique year in that we were in transition, as Ms. Phillips mentioned. So the revenues were higher than our normal offsetting revenues that we saw prior to the transition year. So essentially, the recycling program was intended to not cost municipalities in the past, where that obviously wasn't the case. Last year was an anomaly year where we actually made extra revenue by becoming a service provider to circular materials during the transition year. And I think overall, we've seen, unfortunately, we used to run as almost every municipality in the province did, run an integrated waste management system where recycling and garbage were collected by the same truck on the same day. So there was economies of scale there. So we're seeing increases in solid waste management because the separate truck, separate contractor, some of those efficiencies have been lost from that. But we'll be re-examining that going forward in 2026 and bringing some more information to council a little later in the year on that topic.
Councilor McCann?
Thank you. I'm just wondering, under revenues, other municipalities, I know that archipelago residents can avail themselves to the facilities at the McFarland transfer place. But what other municipalities are included here in this list? I thought.
We have the household hazardous waste depot.
So that's the tie-in then. Okay. I see. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to municipal office, it's page 114. No major change there. Cemeteries, revenues have been increased there to be more in line with the trend. And so the tax impacts reduced slightly by around 17,000 related to that.
Councilor Keith has a question.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. It has to do in this case with user fees. You referred to the trend. What does the trend mean? Does it mean that the columbariums are all being, the spots in them are being purchased and we are soon going to need another new columbarium because of increasing cremation? Or what do you mean by user fees? I'm not quite sure.
Through Mr. Mayor, I know that user fees overall have gone up over recent years, but Mr. Kearns, it looks like he has something specific in mind about giving an update related to the columbarium specifically, perhaps.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Phillips. So sales in the columbarium have increased and we've had recent discussions. We're going to take a look at available niches as we move into the active season at the cemetery. But I would suggest to you that your user fees also relate to burial plots as well, not just strictly the niches in the columbarium as well.
Just for clarification, but would it be fair to assume though that probably more have to do with the niches than the burial plots? I mean, if you just are in town here, it doesn't seem to me there's a large number of people who are having a casket service.
Sylvan
So-
Acres though as well.
Through your worship, yes, to Councillor Keith. So I think overall there seems to be a trend moving towards cremations. There are burials of cremations as well. They're not all interred within the niche, both in town and at Sylvan, and certainly the burial of cremated remains is much less noticeable than a casket burial.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to Bob Ure Community Center, so that's page 117. User fees are increased by 10,000 and some facility rentals are increasing, so that's gone up by 22,900 as well. Energy costs are the most notable increase there, about 15,000 just based on previous year and what's been going on at the facility. On to Parks and Rec. Small increase of almost 69,000.
Counselor Keith has a question.
I'm sorry if I kind of beat
Oh,
you there.
fine.
In Parks and Recs for that 50,000 that have to do with the Tower Hill, I take it, in the inspection, is that like a mandated inspection that has to occur from the province? So it's not like we're just getting extra zealous in that department?
Oh, Ms. McNamara is online, so I'll turn that over to her to speak to that.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips, for your Councillor Laura. This is required. The tower is structurally sound for persons to continue to traverse to the top and see the beautiful views of Parry Sound.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is the recreation program registration revenues are up 8,000 there. Just vehicle lease costs have been updated based on what's forecasted. Generally, that's the main variances there. No further questions. We'll just move on to finance, tab 10, page 123. So small increase overall, 41,000. Fines and penalties are up 25,000. A small decrease expected in supplemental taxation revenues, 19,000. And the asset management plans completed, so reduction related to that project being complete in contribution from reserves and in contracted services previously mentioned. Asset coordinator position replaced with capital asset manager, and accounting supervisor position replaces a payroll supervisor position in the previous year based on just a review and what we expect that's required in the department. And small increase in conferences, just and charge admin support, additional admin support of 52,000 related to the industrial park activities generally.
Counselor Keith?
Thank you. I know it's a small amount, but in any event, conferences, I see 2,300. And the explanation here is that there's an additional cost since staff fees are not covered by Ontario Municipal Tax and Revenue Association organization. I assume because the staff member is no longer a member, the staff person is no longer a member of the board of directors. And so assuming that, and I'm sure somebody will straighten me out if I have misunderstood that, I'm wondering how long that staff person would have been attending the meetings. Like, would this have been over a number of years? So this is the first time now we're actually paying. So we've been having a freebie for a few years. I'd like to know if we get. that
So
we get
Mr.
free.
Beaumont was on the board of directors for at least 3 terms, and so he's reached the end of the time where he's allowed to be on the board of directors. They have a recirculation after a certain amount of time to allow more people to participate. So over a number of years, those costs were covered by the organization as a member of that. So
It's just for clarification, how long is a term? You said 3 terms, but is that 3 years or is that 12 years or clue me in, please?
come on up, Mr. Beaumont is exceeds my term here.
Through you, your worship, Councillor Keith, yeah, I sat on the Omtra board for 10 years. So they've covered my expenses for the last 10 years.
So we are getting a real deal here. Thank you. I'm happy.
You never know, it may run again.
Okay, so moving on to external levies, boards, district services. So this is on page 129, tab 11. So there are small increase, well, there's increases throughout. So the health unit levy went up 3.92% or almost 8,000. Land ambulance levy is expected to increase, but the levy increased by 5.6%, but that's almost 18,000 for the town. Home for the aged, that was a small increase, almost 2%. And DSAB, their levy went up 5.6% or 20,000 approximately. The library requested an increase of 14,000, so that'll come up later for the items for council consideration. The museum, 2,000 increase requested, so that will come up also. And the largest is the Ontario Provincial Police levy increased 11% or 254,000, and that increase was capped based on the billing model of the OPP, so it would have otherwise been even more than the amount that was passed along. So it's anticipated that it may have another increase then in 2027 if we're looking forward, so to try and plan for that.
Yeah. Councillor Ashford.
So could you explain that a little more? Because I know at one point it was going to be a giant increase last year, or is it this year? And then the province said, no, we're gonna make sure we're gonna give you funds for this and back and forth. So is it, from what you're saying, is it there was a giant increase? The province intervention was no OPP, you can't make them pay that this year, but you can make them pay it the year later.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what?
Yeah.
Okay, so the province just said like divide it up over the next 2 years, so it's not so bad.
It's being phased in, the increases over a time period by utilizing a cap each year with the billing model.
So it's going to keep going up.
And there's another small or 2.78% increase for the MPACS levy, which is almost $3,000. Police Service Board, I've added a 1,000 here for that, just based on what the budget turned out to be as it was under development last year, kind of thing.
Councillor Keith.
I'll just speak on that. The Police Service Board, just to be aware, that was a provincially mandated board that every municipality is required to have, and it is expected to run a full board with its own operation completely. So, and of course, though they still rely on every municipality to contribute to it, but it's expecting the whole board to operate on its own. So, we're starting off with 3,500 and let's hope that it can stay somewhere in that vicinity, but time will tell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Borneman?
Mm,
You mean as on a levy? Yes. Or less than 2%.
yeah, I don't want to go back and get confused, eh?
Mr. Mayor, is our AMO and all of the other municipal organizations going to bat about this? Like, that's not sustainable over a lengthy period of time, that policing costs continue beyond any control of ours or any impact that we might have on it. That's just not sustainable, that it goes up 2% year over year over year over year. It isn't.
No, I know, and actually, Counselor Keith and I had a conversation about that, and when I was at my AMO board meeting last week, I had a conversation with the policy person that handles the OPP file and policing costs, and they're not getting a lot of, I'm going to say, uptake from municipalities on this particular aspect. There was one from Sarnia with regard to not having say in how costing is done and that sort of thing. But we have made them aware, and they are going to be monitoring it now to find out, if more municipalities are going to start speaking up. But right at the moment, there's very few have said anything. And I think part of it is because the province covered the cost last year. But now when this hits this year and next year, I think you're going to start to hear a little more flack back because of it costing more, the municipalities. So, yeah, Councillor Keith.
And I think in addition to that, also in a case like our municipality or municipalities right around Parry Sound, West Parry Sound OPP detachment board, you're paying for OPP costs, but then you're also, as a municipality, you're paying also for that police service board that has to run on its own, that's its own entity. So we're really getting dinged.
Yeah.
So I think, personally, I think as time goes on, as more board members are being trained and the budgets this year are happening and it's an election year, I think the bells will start to go on, but I think there's been also an adjustment, like if I look at the boards, it's been the boards on the whole, the majority have been community policing advisory boards. So to move over to West Parry Sound, and to move over to an OPP detachment board is a big change in itself. And I think there are a lot of times people are paying catch up and they still haven't quite recognized the impact, but I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, Councillor Borneman.
Well, I recognize the impact tonight, and I'm pretty sure every taxpayer in town is going to recognize the impact when they get their bill. So I don't know where we take this from here, but I would hope that there's something coming out of this, moving forward through the associations, in and of ourselves, it's going to have zero impact or less. So I would hope that we can look at developing some sort of resolution to be circulated and forwarded on. So somebody starts to take this seriously, because, if I thought I heard you suggest, Mr. Mayor, that we're likely to get dinged a similar amount next year, like that's, in a small community like Parry Sound, that's $500,000 over a couple of years. That's as I say, that's just not sustainable in the long run.
No, that's the way the province is rolling on it. Councillor Keith and then Councillor
Yeah.
Ashford.
I'm just going to say that we, myself have started initiating queries in respect to other municipalities, other boards, to see what the interest is, to have a fuller resolution than what also Sarnia also had, because Sarnia is not quite in the same boat as us. So I think we need to get together also with perhaps FUNUM, because northern municipalities are going to also look at it different. So I think we're in the stages of that, but it might be better to make sure that we've got a lot of support from all these other municipalities rather than just jump on the horn, shall we say, tonight, because that's not the way to make change happen. Thank you.
Councillor Ashford.
I know we're not super germane right now with the topic, but I just wonder, like, although the last few years I've been involved in improving the budget, I still am annoyed when the bill comes to my house. And I'm like, what are these people thinking? Myself, right? So I'm still in that position where I'm looking at my bill and I'm wishing that it wasn't what it was. But at that same time, is it maybe we could include this information when the bills go out? Because I know I look at it and I'm scratching my head trying to think, where can I save money on this bill, which I can't do anything about. But like in this case, like I feel like pretty much the whole increase is going right to the levy. Like, is there a way that we could include that on our bill?
Well, I really think that the executive summary is an important piece or whatever within this whole thing, because it shows where the increases are. And the fact that we were trying to save money within the operating budget, but that's been overshadowed by
This increase.
cost, the other increases, well, and a decrease in funding. Yeah. Ms. Phillips?
So the actual bill is quite legislative. So we can't make many changes. We can see what we could fit on that, or we can consider some type of an insert that
An
may
insert.
include information from other departments
An
or,
insert would be
yeah.
good.
It made the newspapers last year. I don't know if it will this year, but hopefully. We said newspaper during this meeting. Hopefully they'll pick it up. Newspaper.
Newspaper?
Okay,
Councillor Bolesky.
Thank you, Your Worship. On that latest note there, Ms. Phillips says we can't change the bill, we can't change the tax bill to highlight it, but an insert in it. And I would think that we should be including all external costs. Like, we've got how much we're paying for a lot of external costing that we could be put on the school boards on the bill. But any other, like the ambulances, the fire, or the police, I should say, the fire is our own. Anything that we have to pay over and above operating costs, I think wouldn't hurt to be put on that. Just to see where the money's going out to.
The section that you have on the external levies, that could probably be included in that. Because it lists them all. Health unit, land ambulance, home for the aged, seniors, DSAB, library, museum.
through you, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
we can put our mind to whether we can come up with a infographic or some kind of like
Yeah.
concise, a little more condensed version,
Sure.
but using this information or, so between now and then, we'll put our mind to something.
Yep.
Okay.
Councillor Keith?
I did hear the word infographic, and I was just going to say, no, seriously, I think that although people appreciate or maybe don't appreciate hearing what the cost of ABC is, I still think people remember graphs a lot easier because there's colors involved and they can see the picture. After a while, one number and another number all blends together, but if you could be creative with a graph, a pie, whatever, that would be helpful too. Please do it in color though.
Yeah, we'll look at that. So on this table, it doesn't identify any of the areas which are non-tax supported, but I think I should just go through them very quickly and maybe
Yeah.
mention some high level points there. Land ambulance, I know that's already come to council, so there's really not much more to add about that. But for Provincial Offences Act on page 137, I just want to note that the fines and penalties over time have gone down, so it continues with that historical trend. And there's been more lengthy trials, so some of the costs are ongoing, but still the budget is balanced for 2026, but just to give you an idea of what's been going on there. At the Stocky Center. Oh, did I mention it on this part here? So the town's contribution to the Stocky Center went up slightly at 27,000 compared to the year before, so that's on the table before you. Overall, user fee revenues have gone up. But some artist costs and things like that have been increasing over time, like that's the trend. So the staff are looking at other ways to try and make up that revenue. So through facility rental revenues and throughout their budget, they've gone through a line by line review of that to try and accommodate some of the
Counselor Keith,
trends.
question.
Yes, I'm just wondering, for that repairs and maintenance, is that included under operating expenses or is that under contracted services? What line would that be?
Right now, it's falling under materials, so repairs and maintenance under materials
Okay, thank you.
for that particular one. And that's just what's expected for the year, kind of a one-time plumbing cost thing.
Differently.
So moving on to water systems and wastewater, so those balance out for the year. With user fees, but we're looking at the water and wastewater rate study in 2026, so that's planned. And a bit less is going to the reserve for capital due to timing on some studies, so such as water flow testing, water distribution system study, and sanitary system study. And there's some sewage hydraulic model annual maintenance for the year, as well as some periodic items like sludge and testing and costs and a assimilative capacity study. So some of these items were contributing a bit less to the reserve just due to the timing compared to the rate study. So that's shown here, but we're still contributing quite a bit. 857,000 to the reserve for water systems and about 1 million towards the wastewater system. So still contributing towards future capital, but over time, we'll be reviewing that with the rate studies.
Counselor Keith has a question.
Those are operating expenses, but they fall under materials similar to the other. So repairs and maintenance at the building typically goes under that. Okay, any more questions related? I think that's pretty much the high level variances there. So impact on the ratepayer. This is on page 43 of the budget book. The taxpayer will pay $58.64 more per year, or $4.89 additional per month for every 100,000 in residential assessment. And this is for 1.8% for operating and the 1.8% for capital. So that's factored into this. And on the next slide, there's a bit of an example of how you would convert that. So this shows you that if you divide your assessment by 100,000 and multiply by 58.64, you'll get your yearly impact. And in this example, the taxpayer would pay $115.52 more per year. And that's using the average. Okay, items for council consideration. So most of these items, what page are we on, Zach? Do you know what that one is? On page 45. Most of these items, those in green, items 2 to 8, are currently included in the recommended budget, but are for council confirmation as they're similar requests to the prior year. And item 1 is an additional requested item of note from a public user group for council consideration. So the first item is a request for Kinsman Park dugout shelters. Page 45, tab 5. And there's some supplemental material kind of behind the table. So they're requesting the dugout shelters. They're not currently included in the budget, be like a service level increase. But for rainy days, they would like that. And sunny days, yeah. Should we go through each item and kind of vote on what we want to do, or is there a discussion, I guess, on that?
Counselor Blusky and then Counselor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. The doctor recruitment, was that ever paid out last year? Did we use it for anything? I'm for it. I think we made changes on it last year, but
Last year we increased the amount, but it isn't something that is typically requested. It's just that council chooses to do it and then provides it to the hospital. Just based on a need, I think that was determined at one point in time.
okay, but
But this
what's the money spent? Like, what do we spend it on?
I would have to follow up to find out what the money went for, other than that was paid to them and directed for that purpose, I guess is the.
They use the money when they're trying to attract a. new
Yeah, I understand what,
area.
for Your Worship, but has it been used? Like last
yeah.
year it was used by who?
I have no idea.
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
It's given to the hospital to try and recruit doctors, but there's also money that goes to the Northern Ontario Medical School as well within this. And that's a contribution that we've given for a number of years to help sponsor doctors or whatever. And some of those doctors actually do come, students come to Parry Sound to actually work, that sort of thing, to get their training. So it's been an extremely worthwhile program to try and get more people into the north and educated as doctors.
I understand that, Your Worship. I just, like, if I'm not, we could check, but I think it was me that asked it to be raised last year when we're going through the same episode. I said, can't we move it? If I remember correctly, somewhere along that line, I thought I was me that raised. I'm just was wanting to make sure that it was being spent and by who was spent. I know one time in another council, we actually worked and had buildings built. We had a doctor's office built to attract doctors to come into town. We had all that, and so I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I think it's great, but I'm saying, we put this in, and I want to be sure that it was being spent and something was done, is there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll look into whether we paid it out. If we haven't paid it out, I would make sure that it does get paid out and then charged against 25, like based on council's wishes. And then I could, along with that, include a letter requesting acknowledgement or information
Yeah.
related to how it's being,
Spent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and could I touch another item, Your Worship? while you're here?
Well, how about if anyone else has a comment on that particular item? Councillor Keith.
Well, I attended yesterday the West Parry Sound Health Center. They were giving us an update for what the health center has been doing. And there was the chief of staff for that spoke. And what he spoke on was one, besides, I believe also Donald Sanderson, was actually in respect to the support that financially that municipalities have given to the health center and to the Northern Medical School there, because it evidently is already starting to pay off benefits, because understand a new doctor is coming to our community, and a few of the interns that were finishing up had also with the idea also of appreciating now having the wellness center there, that spoke highly of being interested in coming to our community. So I believe it's being used, because certainly the conversation went that way, that was helpful in enticing people to come to the area. So I can appreciate the letter with the specifics, but it evidently we're doing something right there. And they also indicated, just for information purposes, because of course there's other communities that are trying to get doctors too, but the doctors that have come and looked already are seeing really the benefits and the quality of life here. And so we certainly were given the impression at that meeting that it's likely we're going to get more to come, and we're going about it the right way. Thanks.
On the same topic? Okay, Councillor Ashford.
Yeah, just with what Councillor Keith is saying there, that all the doctors, and there's a bunch of different ones like residencies, intern, all these different stages of becoming a doctor that I don't really know, but everyone that's been coming in this past year from the Northern Medical College, Parry Sound was their first choice. So that was something that what we are doing. I think we can do more, but everybody that was on that list that got here, it wasn't a second choice, it was their first choice. I think they can pick 3.
Anything else on this one? No? Okay, so we're good with that? Okay. Councillor McDonald had his hand up on an item, and then we'll go.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess this would be for Ms. McNamara. Item number 1, the Kinsman Park dugout shelters. Is that for the quotes, for just the 2 fields, the main fields for the ball park, or would it be all 4? Just want to get some clarification on that.
Through your worship, Councillor, yeah, you are correct. We would be looking at dugouts for the 2 lower ball diamonds. Seeing as this request did come in from Parry Sound Youth Baseball, at this time we haven't provided consideration for the upper fields or the many soccer considerations that go on up there.
Thank you. And would there be any possibility for any funding or grants funding for that as well to offset some of the cost?
If council were to approve this as a capital item project, staff would do what they do in all circumstances of this nature. We would try our best to source grants that would potentially apply and be available for the purpose of that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Keith.
I'm just going to say I would be supportive of us adding this to the capital budget.
Councillor McCann.
So Councillor McDonald had had asked one of the questions that I had in mind, but I was wondering about how elaborate these are, and have we received plans, like do we know what we're spending the money on, the kind of materials? And moving forward with building them.
Through your worship, Council McCann, absolutely not. These are just, these are preliminary quotes for structures that staff have researched. If council does approve this budget figure to move forward, staff would bring back to council a comprehensive plan that would include what these structures look like, as well as full and complete costing.
Okay, thank you.
So there's two avenues. Number one, you could take a look at having a motion or whatever to include this dependent upon funding, okay, from like a grant, that sort of thing. But I want everybody to be cognizant too, that this pushes the budget from 3.6% to 3.8%. That's what's going to happen here. We're going to increase taxes no matter what. Councillor Keith.
And I can appreciate it pushing it from 3.6 to 3.8, but I think also in a community where we need to also, or I personally feel that we need to support our youth. This is an example of us demonstrating that we're supporting our youth, because there's a variety of things here that that also are supporting people older than youth. And this is an opportunity. And if we had it dependent on grant, we're showing that we are interested, because I know that that is one of the concerns of people who have families. And if we want other professionals and others to move to our community and settle here, we have to also have things that are for youth. And I think this is just a demonstration. And maybe, you know, if we're really concerned about going from 3.6 to 3.8, maybe we just cut down on one of these other allotments.
Well, then maybe what you should do is save that one to the last. And look at your other ones. Okay. Councillor Ashford, you had a question.
My comment on it is it's just, it feels a little last minute and I don't have a lot of information on it. So that's kind of the like, yeah, of course we want dugouts. Like, but at the same time, who knows what this could entail and what is the best. Yeah, it just seems like it's kind of come into it's a capital expense that's come into the operating budget. And, you know, I don't really know a lot about it. So like a fulsome report coming back in a month or two would make more sense to me than to raise taxes for this particular matter. But yeah, and that's where, like, if it was a grant, like, we might not be spending anything, right? So like, it's hard to kind of say in the capital budget what we would do, or in the operating budget what we would do for this.
Councillor Borneman.
Well, I think what Ms. Phillips has provided here, tax impact $3.41. It's not an insurmountable number. The other question I would have, and I don't know the answer to this, do we have a Parks and Recreation reserve fund, or, we're collecting monies for, in lieu of parking and different things? Are there monies elsewhere that could be utilized to offset this expense somehow or another? And she's waving her finger, so she knows the answer.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the difficulty is that we have a asset management plan and we're saving towards future replacement of the infrastructure that we already have. So typically the strategy is that if there's like a service level like a request for a service level increase, that we would recommend that council consider whether that's funded through taxes, because you can chip away at what you've saved for your infrastructure to be replaced over time if you consistently make decisions to fund from a reserve, which is for something else, kind of thing. So that's, I guess, the thought behind it, but for the stuff that you have, but
Counselor Borman?
That's probably our, at least area wise, it's our biggest park. I was referring to that specific location.
we have a parks like reserve, but it's for, I guess, all parks, but generally we put money aside for the stuff that we have, so that's the thing.
Counselor McCann?
Well, I was just going to touch on another point that, expanding on what Councillor Keith had mentioned. In fact, that this is, as Councillor Borneman mentioned, the biggest park. And, you know, here we are looking forward to opening up a brand new pool and recreation center. When we're looking at recruiting people to come to work, whatever line of work, whatever color their color may be, if they're moving in with a young family, this is one more asset if they see a you know, a ball field that's well equipped. And we're growing, and I think we can look forward to young families over the next significant number of years. And I think this would be a good investment. So I think I would support this at this point, but I like the idea of looking for more money as well.
Counselor McDonald?
So thank you. I just wanted to add one more thing, like, I think this checks off, at least 2 or 3 boxes for me. They brought back the hardball, youth hardball last year, which is creating more, options for our youth, and supporting youth sports and also, supporting active, living as well. So, I would definitely support that, contingent upon grant funding as well too.
I'm waiting for an answer or somebody to put something forward. Counselor Keith?
Well, then I move a motion that we support the funding of the, I think it's $30,000 for the Kinsman Park dugout shelters, contingent on securing grants for feasibility
Do we have a
of the
seconder?
project.
Counselor McDonald seconding it. Counselor Borneman?
Did we make that up to $30,000, Councillor Keith?
Well, I can be reasonable. Yes, we'll make it up to 30,000 because we certainly don't want to hit 100,000. So up to 30,000, yes.
We're good on a friendly amendment on that. Counselor Bolesky?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to be sure here, the motion says that up to $30,000, but it's continuing on we're getting grants. So it's really not going to have any effect on the budget at all.
It will.
If we get grant, if we get, or they're saying how much of it has to be grants and how much.
You're not gonna get 100%.
Okay, so that motion doesn't really make sense. It's saying we're gonna approve it conditional upon grants. Okay, well, how much grants? 5,000, 10,000, 15? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just saying the way the motion read is it's all continuity on grants. That's point of order, that's all.
Well, I guess how I look at it is that the grant is only, that is secured is only 15,000 and we have 30,000. We should be able to make that happen. So we're giving ourselves some wiggle room there. And if it doesn't,
Yeah. So 30 would include the grant because that's what the cost would be of the shelters.
okay.
So the grant could be 10,000, 15,000, whatever, but yeah,
But what if, just hypothetically, the grant we secure is 35,000? We're not going to turn it away, are we?
but you would apply for a
Right.
certain
Yes,
value.
yes, I understand
You're
that.
not going to get more than what you applied for.
Well, you can always try.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. We're saying that what if the grant's 5,000? we're committing $25,000 of budget money to it.
Yeah.
Which is fine if that's the way it wants to go.
Yeah.
But the motion says that
If we don't get any grant money, the way the motion reads is, then it's not billed.
that's not built. That's fine.
Counselor Ashford.
So just to be clear, if this resolution passes, the taxes will be increased. The tax rate will be increased, and that money will go to something else if we don't get grants, or whatever money's left over after the grant would go to something else. So we're increasing taxes either way to 30,000, and hopefully that money will just go to something else.
Or it
Does
could
that
be
make
put in-
sense?
Or it could be put into a reserve and done the
Yeah.
next year.
Like that's what I would think the
Yeah.
reserve would be, where it would go.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what we would normally do is like transfer that to the Parks Reserve, since it's generally the same purpose if there was any like surplus related to that item kind of thing.
Yeah. Anything else? I'm just checking. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. And you're all good with the rest of them?
I have one.
Okay. Well, you got another question?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not on this item.
Yeah, on another.
On another one.
Okay, but I asked the other green highlighted items. Everybody's good with those, right?
No,
No.
I have another.
Okay. Which
Want
one?
me to Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Ms. Phillips, I'm sorry. Ms. Phillips, Park to Park, we didn't take the 6,000 last year. It hasn't been, we didn't come in and collect it. We haven't got a lot on the go right now. We were solidly considering not applying for, not to go through with this 6,000. We have some grants coming in. Those grants are contingent that the surrounding municipalities are also contributing some money. So if we don't take the money from last year and we don't take this, then it doesn't show as if the municipality is contributing. And then our grant may not go through. But if we could keep one of them and either erase last year's, put this year's in, or erase this year's, don't put this year's in. Can you help me with that and how you want to do it? We don't have projects on the go right now that we need the money for. We have projects coming up that we're going to have to do, but hopefully this grant will cover it. But we need to show that the surrounding municipalities are contributing as well, or we don't get the grants.
Okay. Sorry, Ms. Phillips.
So there's two options, I guess. If we don't pay the 2025 amount, what happens is the surplus gets allocated, based on council policy. And then you request it now and then it gets paid. Or the other option is just to cut the 6,000 from now and not continue with the payment for 2025.
Yeah.
And that would take care of it.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to see which would be the best way to work it. I didn't want to say cancel this year's and last year's, and then we do without our grant because of it.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do is,
So if we just continue with the 2025 and pay it, but
as long as that shows us
we
that
we take this one out.
they're contributing, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor of that? That's carried. Okay. Anything else? I see some smoke coming up, but no hands. Okay.
No smoke right now.
Yeah, then could I have a show of hands to support the rest of them, rest of the items? That's carried. Okay, thank you. Ms. Phillips, what do we got now?
Okay, so for operating, if we added that amount in, it would go from 1.6% to 1.76%. And for capital, it would go from 1.8% to 2.01%, which is rounds to altogether 3.77%, or we could just make it at 3.8%, round to
Yeah.
the 3.8%.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can
Okay.
bring that back with the bylaw or.
Okay, any further comments? All those in favor of that 3.8%? Councilor Ashford?
Sorry, my mic's still on even. Yeah, no, I just think we have so many worthy things that we could spend money on. And so we do it as a process and we don't dump a capital item into the operating and try to, but I just compare it with the rest but we've already decided to do it. So I don't have a real concern and I'm kind of excited about the purchase.
Okay, so it's carried on that part of it by the show of hands. So, Ms. Phillip, did you have anything more you wanted to add to this?
No, that's everything. Just thank you to everybody for their participation and getting the budget to where it is. All of the managers and Mr. Kuzino here and
Yeah.
SLT and everything. So I'll stop sharing so that you can see.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all staff because I know this isn't a single staff decision and effort going into this. As Mr. Harris said at the beginning, a lot of staff contributed to this, but I really have to kudos to the finance department for accumulating all this and putting it together so that it was a very neat budget package, which was very good. I was fine with it on the computer, so no issues there. But thank you for all the work and council's work tonight as well. I think Councillor Ashford and then Councillor McDonald.
I just wanted to make a comment about some of the numbers and when we talk to the wage increases that if you're not kind of in the contract world, contracts are always, if you have a 3-year contract, that means it's 3 years behind what the actual inflationary pressures are on the people. So our staff are always, whatever the length of the contract, behind. So a lot of this, the increases in the contract or labor costs were higher than what inflation was this year. But that's not really where they didn't get those raises 3 years ago when those inflationary pressures happened. So I just wanted to mention that I think that the best money that we have is going into our staff, and that although the inflation wasn't as high this year as what the increases are, this is really a contract for 3 years ago as opposed to now. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention too was that it was just kind of a little sad to see that the marriage license applications had gone down. I just hope that love is still out there and that our town does you think of the things that this town does and our staff does. One of the things is making sure people can get married and be in love. And so it's kind of an amazing thing out there that all the different things we do. So I was a little sad to see that was down. Hopefully it's up again next year.
Are you working on Valentine's Day for next year? Is that Easter's coming? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I would just like to also thank Stephanie and the staff, the senior leadership team for doing a great, amazing job. I know you always target to go under 4%, which you have in the past number of years. And it's an incredible amount of work. The numbers you guys have to juggle to make this happen. And I hope the news picks up on this because it's definitely something worth bragging about. I think we compare ourselves to other municipalities and we're quite a bit lower than what I've seen out there already. So great job.
Yeah, yeah. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. So moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2026-7586 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Borneman, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? That's carried. So prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next council meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, April the 7th at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held at the town of Parry Sound Council Chambers at 52 Seguin Street, entrance via Gibson Street, be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. Council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas and minutes, and instructions on accessing live streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.